Hello and welcome to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. My name is Duncan, I'm your host, and I'm on a mission to help you design, build, test and code your future in computing. In this podcast we'll talk to current and former students of computer science, find out more about their journey from student to professional. What's their story? How are they coding their future? What obstacles have they faced and how did they overcome them? Finally, we ask our guests what advice they'd offer their former selves and fellow students and where are they headed next. My guest today is Asma Alshebli. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Artificial Intelligence in 2024 when this episode was recorded. During her undergraduate degree, she did a summer internship with Abu Dhabi Ports Group and served as Hackathon co-director for UnixMCR.com. We recorded this episode in a slightly noisier location than normal, so please excuse the background noise from the busy Oxford Road. Welcome, Asma, to Hearing Your Future.
Thank you.
Should we start with, could you say a little bit about who you are, your name, and where you come from?
Okay, so my name is Asma Alshebli, and I'm an Emirati student at the University of Manchester. Well, I just graduated last week.
You graduated last week? Bachelor of Science degree in
Artificial
Intelligence, right? Okay, good. So, can you describe your story? So, if we go right back to the beginning, I'd be interested to hear about what made you. Was there a moment or a time when you realised that you wanted to do computer science? Was it something that not why Manchester, but why computing? Was there a particular thing you'd done in high school that made you think, actually, this is something I'd like to spend 3-4 years of my life doing?
Okay, so this is an interesting question, and I've been asked this in interviews as well. So there was no pivotal moment in my life where I realized, computer science is for me. I was graduating high school, and I was unsure of what I wanted to do, but I knew that I am really interested in maths. But engineering was not appealing for me. So when I just googled majors with maths in them, and computer science was one of them, and I did minor research about the major, and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
And what pushed me further is that because I wanted to study abroad on a scholarship, the government only sponsors certain majors, and computer science was one of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So had you had much exposure to computing at high school, or was it you were just studying maths, physics, and whatnot?
My high school was only focusing on the traditional subjects.
Yeah.
Although we did have other more engineering based and science based high schools. Yeah.
What was it about the other engineering, other kinds of engineering that put you off, say, I don't know, mechanical engineering, for example? Was there anything about that made you think, I don't really want to do that? Because with what you studied, I guess you would have, you could have gone into any of the engineering.
I don't really like mechanics or physics.
Right.
So, and most, if not all, engineering majors have physics in them.
Yeah, okay.
But what was funny is that because I had to do the foundation year at the university, I had to take physics and mechanics.
And that was okay? Was the experience of studying mechanics and physics okay, or was it kind of a bit?
Physics was fine. Mechanics was it was challenging.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. So then you'd done a foundation year, and then you started. Now, the first time we met was when you were in my tutor group back in 2020. So I think we would have been coming out of
late 2020.
Late 2020, September time. We would have been coming out of.
No, it was 2021.
Oh, 2021. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So we would have been coming out of lockdowns by then, and things were returning to normal. So can you describe your experience of, having done the foundation year? What was your experience of first year like? Were there any things that you particularly enjoyed doing? Or?
So transitioning from foundation year to first year was very different. First of all, because I did my foundation year online.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that was a big change, but also in the way that the material was being taught. In foundation year, I guess it's because the intake was smaller. So we had more opportunity to have tutorial groups, which was really interesting. and it was easier to connect with other students. However, in first year, I guess because the cohort was bigger, not only foundation year students were progressing into first year, also like newcomers starting first year as well.
So I guess on your foundation year there would have been what, about 100, 150 students, something
and
like that?
They were from different majors as well, not just computer science.
And then you go into first year of computer science and suddenly there's 300-400 students all studying the same thing, and all from quite different backgrounds as well, so not everyone would have done the foundation year. I mean, I think at this point, were you thinking about looking for jobs in the UK, or would that not really occur to you at this point? It was just just study.
My initial plan was just to go to the UK and study.
Right.
I didn't think about internships back home or in the UK. It wasn't part of my plan.
No. I think that's quite common for a lot of people, as they don't realise. I mean, I think one of the nice things about staying to come and study in the UK is that while you're a student, you're entitled to work, so you can get experience here that you then take on to wherever you want to go to afterwards. So that was during the first year. Was it in second year you started seriously pursuing internships?
Yes, I was thinking about doing a placement here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was mainly because most of my friends were doing placements, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to get more experience before starting like an actual job.
Yeah.
But I guess I started looking for a placement relatively late. I think I started in January.
Right.
And most of the job positions are advertised in September, so early on, which is something you have to plan beforehand for it. I did do some interviews, and I got rejected. I don't think it was because I didn't have any experience. I think it's just there were other maybe more qualified people, other candidates. But doing interviews did really help me better express myself and better know how do I want to convey myself to interviewers. You can rehearse some of the questions to some extent, but actually sometimes the best way of getting good at interviews is to just do interviews. Right? This is what you told me, and it really gave me comfort because my first interview was very messy, and the second one as well. Yeah, but then it did get better, not just interviews in the UK, interviews back home as well. They are quite similar in style. The only difference is that in the UK it's more practical and technical, you have a technical phase as well.
So you were having lots of coding interviews.
Yeah.
And how did you cope with coding interviews? Was it a bit of a shock
to
start with? I mean, it's slightly different to being in, it's not like sitting in an exam or doing a piece of coursework, is it? Because it's more of a dialogue between you and the interviewer.
What I noticed is that they want you to explain your thoughts while you're coding as well, and the code doesn't have to be perfect. It just have to make sense, and you should be able to explain what you're doing.
Why you've done it. It's a classic show you're working thing in maths, isn't it? Where it's like, why did you do it that way?
They do also ask other questions, not code-based questions. I think it's just to see your problem-solving skills. But then if you want to apply for a consulting job, then you'll probably have to do a presentation, and which I did. And it was really interesting, but I still didn't get the position. However, I did get a job offer from a startup company abroad. It was in Denmark.
Right.
And they were happy to have me online, so working from the UK. And kind of collecting data for them. They were developing a technology to help with Parkinson's disease, which was really interesting. But then they were actually looking for a summer internship. But I suggested would they be happy to have me for 9 months, and they said it's fine. So we were discussing how would I work with them and stuff like that. But then I decided maybe I want an internship back home rather than staying in the UK and doing an internship online. Because based on my foundation year, I knew
Yeah.
that working online was not for
Yeah.
me.
I think the other thing is it's quite, especially at the beginning of your career, I think the social interaction is important because you trying to work out what the culture of an organisation is. That's quite hard to do online.
Yeah.
I mean, you can work online, but it seems that works better when you've been there a while and
Yeah.
you know how things work. So you found an internship it was back in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
For a summer, so that would have been the end of your second year.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what the company does and what you did
Yeah.
while you were there?
So first of all, the way I got the internship position is I applied in the summer between first year and second year.
Right.
Foundation year and first year.
Right.
And just because I was still back home, I did foundation year online. I just wanted something else to do, and the government back home has an internship portal.
Right.
So all UAE nationals have access to the portal, and they can apply for any job internship positions available. Right. And Abu Dhabi Port has an internship program, and I think they have 2 intakes every year. And the one I applied for was in January, and I remember them calling me and saying, "Hey, can you start now?" And I said,
Right.
"I'm still studying. I can do it during the summer break." And then they said, "Okay, we'll just put your name for the next intake."
Right.
Which was summer of after second year.
Right.
Yeah. So it was an interesting way. I think when someone's looking for internships or jobs, it's just good to try everything and apply for everything, because sometimes they do actually follow up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think good employers or better employers tend to be a bit more flexible in their approach, in that they'll try and give you what you want a little bit within reason. So they were able to change the dates to work for you if they liked the look of you, so they wanted you to come and work for them. So what were you doing at what's the name of the company?
Abu Dhabi Ports.
Abu Dhabi Ports, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably quite big. I mean, I'm picturing huge port, massive throughput of stuff. What was your role?
Yeah, so Abu Dhabi Ports is a very big government company, and they own most of the industrial areas in Abu Dhabi. And they are in charge of imports, exports, as well as land shipping. So any mail. I think they also have they have investments in different companies as well, and some international companies. But my job was working with the data scientists within the company. But the internship was really interesting because I had complete creative freedom on the project I wanted to do. But the challenge is that I had to do my own research and come up with a business proposal, and then present it to not the manager, the supervisor, and convince them that it would be a good idea to invest in this project.
So you're looking at financial data, or what kind of data are we talking about?
The way I did it is comparing or looking into real life examples where the use case has been developed, especially in ports internationally. Just because I asked my manager how should I go on about it, and he said a good way is to find a real life example and then say okay, at the company we have this data, and then for example, this much injuries. To minimize this, we can take ideas or inspirations from this port where they implemented this technique. But because I didn't have access to any data, I looked into the core values and initiatives that the company is working towards, and I used that to say, okay, the way I implemented a safety gear detection system, and the way I developed my business proposal was to say one of the core values is to ensure safety for all of like workers in Abu Dhabi port, and this is not just like employees in offices. We should also look at construction workers as well. And this was my main approach to that. Yeah.
So something nice being given a little bit of freedom into what you were doing.
Yeah.
What sort of tools were you doing for data science? Were we talking, was it sort of Python and stuff, or what kind of data science tools were you using?
The main thing they wanted me to learn about was Power BI.
Right.
So I spent, I would say, around a month just learning and given like small tasks. It wasn't really like something that the company would use. It was mostly like training.
Yeah.
And I did have like online lectures I had to attend for like also Python, Power BI, SQL. Just yes. I would say it's more of like ensuring that my foundational skills are like good, because it's mostly things that I've seen throughout university. Yeah.
Pulling it all together into one project. Yeah. Okay, good. So that was that would have been. So we're talking in summer. Would this have been last summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that long ago, is it? So you came back. You've done your summer internship. I know before we talk about final year projects, because I know you did quite an interesting final year project. Before we talk about that, I know you've been involved in lots of student societies, or a couple of student societies. Can you tell us about what societies you're involved in and perhaps why you got involved and what you got from them?
So I was part of the Computer Science Society, and I was the hackathon co-director. And what was interesting is that when I applied for the position, I've never taken part in a hackathon. I didn't know what a hackathon meant. And the only reason I decided I want this position is because the previous chair, we went on a hiking trip together, all of us, with the Computer Science Society, and she was advertising for the position, and she was trying to convince me to apply.
Who was this, by the way?
Jermaine.
Jermaine,
yeah.
Okay.
And at first I didn't want to, and I said I'll just take part in it as a participant. And what she said is that like you'll have many opportunities to take part in many hackathons, but how often do you get the opportunity to plan one?
Yeah.
And this was the line that made me, like, it convinced me to apply. And because my friend Asma was also doing it, I thought it's going to be like a good opportunity, to work together.
I think you did a great job, because it is, I think sometimes people who attend hackathons don't fully appreciate how much work goes on into organising, any kind of event, but especially a hackathon. But you ran, and I think that was that the first, it might have been the first post-pandemic hackathon.
The second.
Was it the second, right?
The first one, it was done by Matthias. He was the hackathon director.
Yes.
But based on like the handover, he said it was very messy and hectic, but he did try his best. And I remember people really enjoying it. It's just that the team was very small. That's why he was mainly like, I think, stressed with the organization, which is understandable. Yeah, but then after that, because we are like the second hackathon to be like in person post-pandemic, I guess more people were aware of the hackathon taking place, and it was easier to recruit more people.
And then I suppose then did you recruit a successor as well? You found somebody to take over as director when you moved on, so that you can pass on some of what you've learned onto them. Yeah,
and what was interesting is that most of the people within the team actually stayed, and right now the hackathon co-director is Jacob, which was a team member that we recruited.
Right.
Yeah, so he was the head of the development team within the hackathon team.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And I think the other society you've been involved in was it the Emirati Society? You can tell us, obviously that's a different take to the Unix, which is very technically focused. What was your involvement in the Emirati Society?
So with the Emirati Society, we mainly focus on cultural events, just to bring the community together here in the UK. The main big event is the UAE National Day, which takes place in December. So this was the only big event I was involved in, like with the organization and just like helping with the bookings and stuff. What really helped me is that being in the Computer Science Society, obviously we had weekly meetings, so I had to book a room every week. So I was able to like transfer this knowledge to the Emirati Society, because the Computer Science Society is it's bigger with more experience. And the Emirati Society is, it's a small and
community.
Yeah, and because there aren't many Emirati students, once people graduate, the newcomers, it's kind of hard for them to know how societies operate within the university.
So it was transfer what you've learned from one thing to another.
Yeah, so it was interesting, guiding them and giving them ideas. And because I did plan the hackathon, it was easier to also help plan the National Day event.
Right.
Yeah. But because of as the year progressed, I wasn't really able to take part actively in other events. They were a bit smaller. It's just because I wanted to focus on my third year project.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that leads on nicely, actually. So we've talked about stuff you've done during your study, both the academic and the non-academic stuff. You come back for final year, and you did a final year project with. Can you tell us a little bit about what your final year project was on?
Yeah, so my final year project is looking into large language models and their ability in developing natural language definitions for the gene ontology.
Right.
And
what's the gene ontology for people that don't know?
Yeah, so the gene ontology is basically, I would describe it as like a big tree. Kind of looking at the gene domain within science, and kind of how would I describe it?
Well, this are the things that genes make.
Yeah.
What those proteins do.
Yeah. So it's basically like 3 root ontologies or 3 root trees, and then it branches out to describe the different parts of the gene and different functions and stuff like that. It's kind of a big concept and a bit hard to explain in a very short sentence. Yeah.
So I mean, it's like a big tree with terms that people then use to describe, when they're doing experiments. It's I'm talking about this thing over here. Everyone's using the same term. So you're using them, the large language models, we're using them to improve?
To develop natural language definitions. So how the gene ontology is being updated now is that scientists would, whenever they would describe a new term or, discover new information about a certain term, they would have to manually update it.
Right, yeah.
So the idea was, can we use AI to automate this process instead of having manual people manually updating the gene ontology. It was interesting because it's something I've never thought of before, and there is kind of research already being looked into to see if the development of AI tool that can generate natural language definitions for the ontology.
So you're able to generate these definitions in natural language for what something does.
Yeah.
How do you then test whether that is okay? Do you have to have a human user come and look at it and check that actually, that one makes sense, or this one isn't quite right?
So the way I went about doing my research, I focused mainly on the research aspect rather than the development.
Right.
Just because it's a big domain, and it would take more than a year and one person to develop a big tool like that. So I looked into 3 publicly available large language models, which is ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
Llama, and Bard AI,
Right.
which is also known as
Is it Gemini now?
yeah,
Is that called
Gemini.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I developed different prompts. So I looked into prompt techniques. So the way you structure your prompt triggers different behaviors within LLMs.
Right.
Yeah. So I looked into that, developed a set of prompts triggering like different implementing different techniques, and I tested them with random like terms within the gene ontology.
Right.
And then to compare the quality of the responses, I first looked into rouge and blue metrics, which is like a text similarity, a way to measure text similarity within NLP.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not very reliable, especially because you can't really look into the meaning behind the definitions. It looks mostly to like the words and compare them with the reference.
Right.
Yeah. And then the second way was to have a survey and have scientists look over, like biologists, look over the definitions and then kind of rate them on the coverage, the terms used, and there was a
Third
third
one.
measure. Yeah.
So so out of those three models you mentioned, which one was there one sort of that performed better than all the others, or did they all come out quite similar?
Most of them were very similar, but I would say that having the survey was more interesting because you can see like actual feedback from actual biologists. With the text similarity, it was just kind of numbers, and you can't really rely on the numbers when it comes to, because for example with the blue metric, it's mainly used for summaries.
Right.
So it compares like a piece of text and its summary, and for this implementation we're not summarizing, we're kind of, I would say, paraphrasing.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I mean, it's kind of an interesting space where those two things meet, because it's an interesting problem to work on, and not just a problem that occurs with a gene ontology, but many sorts of databases and control vocabularies, that kind of stuff. We should name check your supervisor. That was supervised by
Robert
Stevens.
Yeah.
So that was Robert supervised that. Okay, so we're into. You've graduated last week.
Yeah.
It's must be nice to draw a line under the last 4 years and move on to the next thing now. I want to imagine that this is before we do that. So I ask all women who come on the show what their experience has been of being a woman in computing. So you've been both as a student and also in the workplace. What's your experience of that been, and is there anything that universities and or employers could do to make the field that you work in more welcoming to women?
So I would say in general, my main experience at the university studying computer science was relatively pleasant, especially with finding friends, I would say, because as a Muslim there are other Muslim students.
Mm-hmm.
Manchester is quite diverse in general, and also in terms of females in computer science, most of the way we measure students, the way we measure the female to male ratio within the university is by group work.
Right.
And for me, since I started university up until graduation, most of my group work, I had an equal distribution between males and females.
Right.
However, looking into working with the Computer Science Society, I would say there is kind of a male dominance within the field, also in the workplace.
Yeah.
Even back home, I remember the offices, the first thing I noticed was that how much more men are in the office than women, and if there were women working, it was mainly they were mainly with like the business and HR domain, not the data science stuff. However, the main thing I noticed was that not having that many UAE nationals at the university, which I don't think this is something that the university can control, but I feel like having like coming like from a different culture, and this being my first time living abroad alone, I would have appreciated having more UAE nationals studying computer science. The main thing that helped me in first year when I was going through a rough time, which impacted my studies, was having an Emirati student reach out to me. So her name was Aliazia. She was in the year above me. Right. So when I was in first year, she was in second, and just having her there and like being able to ask her questions and just looking at her, like looking up to her as a mentor, as a role model, was very helpful and important to me at the time. And I think this really helped me transition, or I would say like come out of my shell. I feel like because she always pushed me to not only focus on my work but also do other activities within the university and just being in the UK in general. I feel like this kind of rubbed off like on me, and I still carry this with me, like the way she impacted me. How would I phrase this? I feel like the person I was in high school and then foundation year was very different than the person I am today, and I feel like because I had that sort of connection with a fellow student, it kind of gave me the push to connect with more students from different ethnicities, different cultures and backgrounds.
So I guess there was a bit of luck involved there then, and that she happened to reach out to you. Was that through the Emirati Society, or was that through just some other connection?
I did meet her through mutual friends who were also part of the Emirati Society. So
I think sometimes you've got to find your group of people, your friends, and that sometimes that doesn't happen straight away, does it? But it's good to hear that you found a group to be part of. So the next one then is, I want you to imagine the university is appointing a new vice chancellor at the end of this month. I want to imagine that it's you. So what would you do to improve teaching and learning at university? I hope you've obviously experienced some good teaching and probably some less good teaching. What would you do if you're a vice chancellor to improve teaching and learning across, not just in computer science, but across the whole university?
I think in general, like within the computer science department, one of the strengths in teaching is that our courseworks mainly involve like big development projects where you have to code and actually do research. I think this is really important because my younger brother is also studying computer science back home, and comparing his courseworks to mine, I feel like yes, the courseworks we do are harder and much more challenging, but it's also an opportunity for you to learn. So when you do go in the workplace and when you do get assigned an actual project, it's not that intimidating. Yes, it's going to be a bigger project, but you at least get an idea of how to tackle a project at that scale, which I think this is very important. However, my main issue was with the teaching is not having a close connection with professors or tutors in general. Yes, we do have labs, but to be honest, not that many people go to the labs unless there is a coursework due. And this doesn't give enough time and opportunity for students to really get to know professors. I feel like having tutorial groups, which I had in foundation year, was really important, and it would really enforce learning rather than just going to a big lecture theater and listening to a professor talk. And it's kind of intimidating, even if you do want to ask questions.
Put your hand up.
Yeah, and then everyone looking at you.
I suppose whereas in foundation year and first year the tutorials are quite frequent.
Yeah.
The second year they're less frequent and tend to be more based around certain projects. So like with software engineering, that's kind of in a way your tutor group sort of, and the same with the software engineering too. But those groups change, and you don't always have a tutor there.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's quite hard to adjust to. So maybe more tutorials do you think, or more opportunities to meet with, talk about the work you're doing with the people that are running the course?
Yeah. I would say just because getting to know who's teaching you, at least for me, makes me enjoy the material more, and then when I do enjoy the material, I'm able to learn it without thinking that this is a chore.
Okay. Anything else that you'd change about teaching and learning at university from your experience?
Not really. I feel like generally learning at the university was okay. The main issue was having the big lecture theatres as the main way to learn.
I think the other thing is it's quite difficult adjusting from high school, where your learning is often quite directed, to suddenly you have to be much more independent, but you can't just go from 0 to 60 as it were. You can't go from being very dependent on a teacher to being completely independent. It takes time to get there. So okay, good. Right, then to finish off with, can you recommend one? This is more of on a personal note. We've got one tune, one podcast, one book, one film. Is there a piece of music you'd like to add to our Coders playlist? And why is this piece of music important to you?
I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of music.
That's okay.
But I would like to recommend a movie.
Okay.
Especially since we're talking about looking back and reflecting at university. It's called About Time.
About Time.
Yeah, and why I want people to watch it is because it's about a guy who suddenly discovers that he can time travel.
Right.
And that his dad can time travel as well.
Right.
And then you kind of see how he uses this power to always go back in time and relive a moment and thinking, if I do it this way, then I'll get what I want.
Right.
But then he realizes, no matter how many times he does go back in time, some things will always stay the same.
Right.
And sometimes it's just better to live your life once rather than just going back in time.
Having regrets, going back and trying and changing things.
I think it's just, if you do watch it, then you'll understand what I mean. It's just a good movie.
I hadn't heard of that one, but I'll have to look that out. I think you mentioned you don't particularly listen to podcasts or audiobooks at all, but you do like reading books.
Yes.
So can you recommend a book that you've read, either fiction or non-fiction, that you've enjoyed recently?
Well, one of my favorite books is The Book Thief.
The Book Thief.
Yeah, I've read it in high school and watched the movie several times, and it still has a special place in my heart. I think it was just an interesting read, and it did open up my eyes to things that are happening in the world. At least it did like introduce me to the hardships that people are going through, and I think it is an important thing. Like yes, reading, I do it mainly for enjoyment, but it also does give me a taste of what the real world is, and it introduces me to bigger issues that I'm unaware of. Because personally, I feel like I have lived a sheltered life my whole life, which I think it's also it is a blessing, but also a curse in a way. So it's really important to kind of be aware of what's happening around us.
Yeah. Good. The Book Thief.
Mm-hmm.
We'll add that to the recommendations. And then the last one. This is actually relevant then. So the last thing I ask is, I want a colleague of ours in the physics department has invented a time travel machine. just like in your film, you can travel back in time to meet yourself 4 years ago, 2020 September. You arrived here from Abu Dhabi, probably a little bit shell shocked, I should imagine, arriving in Manchester. It was in the pandemic. What would you tell your former self about making the most of the time that you've spent here at university?
I think the main piece of advice which I would give myself, which I feel like it might be easier said than done, is to worry less, because all throughout my life I wasn't like an anxious person, but I feel like transitioning and coming here in the UK, being on my own, and suddenly having this much independence and this much responsibility, it did make me quite anxious, and I feel like it did impact me, at least in the first year of being in the UK. So I feel like I would tell myself not to worry, and that all the pieces will fall in together, and
I think you did arrive at a particularly difficult time. So it's, I think for everyone the pandemic was difficult, wasn't it? But especially if you're moving to a new country and starting a completely different type of study, then that's and there's always been a lot of stuff that's happened just in the last 4 years to make people anxious. So are there any things that you do that you find help when you're feeling anxious, that help you calm down, whether it's study or work related things?
I would say mainly my friends.
Right.
That's why I told you a big part of university was my social life. Because I would say I'm generally a reserved person, but coming here to the UK, I feel like I had to challenge that part of myself, because being shy and reserved while you're living alone would not really help you get that far. So another thing I would tell myself in first year is to spend more time in Kilburn.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's the main reason why I didn't.
Why was that? So it was just for the social aspect, I suppose, bumping into people.
Yeah, because I would mainly just go to the lectures and back.
Right.
Yeah. Even though I did, one of my best friends right now is a person I did meet in first year. I just added her on Instagram and then never reconnected. We did reconnect on the software engineering project.
Right.
Yeah, which was kind of my key into getting a good social life at university.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we've done our time travel. We've come, as I said, you've graduated. Can you say, before we finish, can you say a little bit about what you're planning to do next? Because I think you're literally today you're moving out of your accommodation, I think, and heading off to do new things. So could you say a little about what comes next?
So right now I am looking more into research positions at universities back home or any research institutions. I feel like after doing my graduation project, I realized that this is something I would love to pursue and work on further, not just the topic itself, but the activity of having like a research project
Yeah.
to work on
Yeah.
was interesting. And then this would also help me hopefully kind of realize what kind of field of artificial intelligence I would like to pursue, hopefully for my master's degree in the future.
Well, we wish you good luck with that.
Thank you.
I think it's exciting times at the moment. There's a lot going on in the fields that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So good luck with whatever comes next.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. You can find out more about this episode and all the other episodes, including full transcripts and show notes, at cdyf.me. That's Charlie Delta Yankee Foxtrot Mike Echo. You can also find us on all the major podcast platforms by searching for Coding Your Future, so that you can subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you found something useful to help you start coding your future today.